Call the town meeting for July 13th, 2020 to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Just right up a COVID-19 update. In the state, there are 818,993 cases, 73,527 cases, and 558,430 persons tested negative. 3,194 deaths. That's a +6 in the last 24 hours period. Frederick County, 2,605 cases, 113 deaths, 7 probable related deaths. For the 21727 zip code, we stayed constant. We're up 1 confirmed case over the last 3 weeks. Frederick County will not get any more updates than that. Thank you very much. Sorry, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Upcoming meetings. Citizen Advisory Committee meeting will be Tuesday, July 21st, 7:30 p.m. It'll be a Zoom. The Quarterly Planning Commission meeting for Monday, July 27th is canceled. The next Town Council meeting will be Monday, August the 3rd at 7:30 p.m. and that will also be Zoom, Channel 99. Approval of meeting minutes for June the 1st. Has everybody seen their meeting minutes? Is there any corrections or anything they need done to the meeting minutes before we have a motion to accept them as presented? Hearing none, I need a motion.
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from June.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Burns. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Commissioner Davis. Any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. No police report, I imagine. Tonight I don't see none here.
No, I haven't heard from him this week.
Town manager's report.
Yes. Good evening. This will be the manager's report for May of 2020. I'll highlight some key areas. Related to streets, staff prep for Memorial Day, conducted street sweeping, put the flags on light poles and mowing. They replaced a speed bump post and sign on 2nd Avenue. The staff and a contractor blacktop 2 water leak patches on Waynesboro Pike, and then also a sinkhole on Bunker Hill. And they replaced the census sign on Route 140 eastbound. Related to parks, they conducted their daily park checks, their monthly park checks. In May, we began sanitizing the playground equipment twice a week. I believe the schedule is Mondays and Thursdays. Staff worked with the pool contractor with turning on the water, checking for leaks, and putting the splash pad together. The contractor also installed the backflow preventer at the pool. Staff weed killed the infields on ball fields number 1 and 3, and they also filled in the ruts behind the dugout at ball field number 6, seeded and mulched. And all the garden plots, the community garden plots were prepared. I believe we still have a couple open if anybody's interested. Related to water, I wanted to highlight water, and then I have some information related to the drought that we are currently in at least across the state of Maryland. Right now, I say from May, you remember this is May 2020 report. In May, the Rainbow Lake was at the spillway level of 16.6 feet. You'll see the optimum levels of the well and then what the wells were in May of 2020. You see we gained 5 feet on well number 1. We lost 2 feet in well number 4. Again, that was May. Water production, we produced an average of 241,512 gallons per day, and we consumed an average of 213,446 gallons, the difference being 12.5%, which is backwash water. We were still meeting our levels, or our minimums at the lake. We were able to get 68.5% of the water in the month of May came from the lake. We purchased 449,350 gallons of water from the Mount this month. Related to water, I just met with Dan Fissel this morning on the state of the water. The lake is dropping. I'd say as of today, we're about 3 to 4 inches below the spillway level. He estimates we're about 16.2 to 16.3 3 feet. It is very dry. The wells are slowly dropping about a foot each. Basically, if we don't receive any significant rain in the next 2 weeks, the town's going to have to take some steps. We need rain desperately. One of the things that we have been noticing and that we encourage people, and it is actually a prohibited act in the town code, just like to remind people the watering of lawns, shrubs, flowers, gardens, etc. via the public water system is prohibited on all days and at all times between the hours of 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. At this time, after discussing with the mayor and discussing with town staff, we need to conserve water now, and we would like to encourage a voluntary conservation by all our residents, of all users of water from the municipal water system of the town. This is actually phase 1 of our code, which is titled the curtailment use of water. We would like to monitor that for the next couple of weeks, and if the situation hasn't improved or we don't receive any significant rain, we would come to the board at the August 3rd meeting with phase 2, which is a mandatory restriction of 3 different items: filling and or replenishing of swimming pools, outside consumption of water, including but not limited to washing of motor vehicles, houses, sidewalks, or any public ways, or watering lawns, gardens, or shrubs, and then the providing of drinking water by operators of restaurants and taverns unless requested by patrons. So I wanted to give everybody an update. I know there's been talk about the lack of rain, so I want to give everybody an update on where we are with the water. Going back to the report and talk about wastewater. In the month of May, we treated an average of 584,000 gallons per day and consumed 213,446 gallons, means 63.5% of the wastewater treated was wild water. We only received about 1.9 inches of rain in the month of May. However, in May, we did have a surplus of 2.15 inches over the last 6 months. We had no spills of untreated sewage in the month of May. However, and we did exceed the plant's design capacity one time, and that was on May 1st. Trash pickup will remain Mondays in the month of July, excuse me. And then listed will be some of the meetings I attended and conference calls in May. Noteworthy, the new MHAA wayside exhibit signs have all been installed. Staff and contractor replaced a damaged fire hydrant on Mountain View Road. Contractor installed a new block wall behind 22 East Main Street. The old one was falling down. It was a safety hazard. Staff worked with a contractor to install the new gas release valve. One day it was leaking here at the community center. Despite the lack of rain, the LG Sonic is doing a good job at keeping the algae at bay, but it's becoming more and more difficult without the rain. Everybody that received their water bill would have gotten the yearly consumer confidence report on our water and sewer. Like I mentioned before, staff is starting to see an uptick in usage due to yard waterings, pools being filled, etc. The water leak was repaired on Track Road. I believe it was 2 weeks ago. Beginning tomorrow, the new water line on Track Road, which will run from Brookfield Road, I don't have the address down Track Road, that will begin tomorrow and will last the next couple of days. An alert did go out notifying people of the work and the potential for low pressure and or discolored water. And that's my report for May.
President Sweeney, can I have a quick question for Kathy?
Yes, Commissioner Burns.
You just mentioned right at the beginning there you were concerned about water usage, and we want to do a voluntary hold on some water, lawns, and things of that nature. Are you at all concerned that the work on Track Road is going to cause brown water, which is then going to force excess water usage by all the residents that may have that, and we're going to basically counteract what we're saying right now? Is there?
We don't actually really anticipate any problems with the work on Track Road. We just put it out as precautionary. We don't, like I said, we don't anticipate any problems with that water line work. So right now it's just voluntary now. We've had 2 recent water leaks on Track Road. That line is deteriorating pretty quickly. There's some concerned residents out there. We were able to get it on the schedule. I think we need to proceed with the work and just voluntarily ask people to, restrict your water use if at all possible. The main thing is the filling of swimming pools, the watering of lawns and gardens, and washing their cars, especially during the day. The code already prohibits it until 6 p.m. If you've got to do it, we just strongly encourage you to do it after 6 o'clock. Hopefully we'll get some rain. It looks like we may get some going into the first part of next week, and we won't have to worry about it.
Second question to that, when you mentioned the water bills and you saw the uptick, I think what we may have forgotten is we obviously, with the start of COVID, we were very concerned about, everybody being able to pay their water bills and things of that nature. But I think what we forgot is over the start of the second quarter was the start of the quarantine. And you had people that were staying home for more hours, doing more dishes, taking more showers, trying to be clean and things of that nature. So I don't necessarily think it may be watering of the grass and things of that nature for the second quarter as much as you saw people following, state guidelines and staying home, trying to improve their hygiene, doing more laundry because they're constantly washing things that they may have worn and things of that nature. So I had mentioned this to the mayor the other day. Mm-hmm. I think we did a great job first quarter addressing, hey, people might struggle to pay the bills and stuff like that. But I don't know if we thought ahead to the fact that, hey, people might be using a lot more water during that second quarter due to the fact that people were really trying to, follow the rules and do more laundry and stay cleanly and try to really address the COVID situation.
Excuse me, to answer your question, I do understand what you're saying. We did not see large increases in the majority of people's bills at all. I know there has been observations of our staff watching people water their lawns and et cetera, et cetera. So it's probably a combination of both. But this is the time where people are going to be out during the day watering and doing that. But
I don't disagree with you. I mean, I'll tell you from my personal experience. I saw a 5,000 gallon increase over that time, and I had not watered my lawn one bit. I know with 5 of us staying home and, trying to stay clean and, we're trying to shower, more regularly and doing definitely more laundry because of, trying to keep everything clean. I can't speak for anybody else in town, but I know myself seeing, 5,000 gallons increase during that time.
No, that's true. I think we've gotten a few calls from them, and we're still, and I know the mayor's encouraging that if you're still experiencing financial hardships, we're here to help, and we have helped several people that have called in with the first round of water bills. The second round just went out, so we haven't heard from too many yet. Makes sense.
Is
All
that
right, thank you.
Makes sense.
Go ahead, Mr. Burns.
Oh no, I think I'm good. I think the only last thing I would ask is with concerning the water bill. When do you guys consider the bill late? If the payment is in the mailbox the day of, but after business hours, is it late? Is there like a 12-hour respite period? I mean, how does it work where you guys add it to the next bill and say that it was late and it's added to that charge there?
So we check the mail when it's coming up to being due. So all the bills are due on the 5th. As you remember, the late fees were waived for this past quarter. But typically, if it's we check the drop box when we come in the morning. So if a bill is put in the drop box, either drop box, 22 East Main Street, or the drop box down here, we check it in the morning. So anything that's in there when we come to work will not be charged a late fee or would not be considered late. The mail typically comes, you're talking about, if it's talking about the post office, I think we check the post office box, it's mid-afternoon when our mail gets here. And then obviously anything that would come in the mail the next day would be considered late then.
What about, do you check the drop boxes before you leave that day? Like, so the bills were obviously due on June 24th. If it was put in on the day of June 24th, I know the late fees were waived, and that's fine. I completely understand that. But people are obviously going to put their, some people were waiting till the 24th for, other bills to pass
Right.
and things of that nature.
Yeah,
If they
no,
put
that
them
would still be
in the drop box. On
yeah,
the
that would still be
24th.
considered on time. We would check it on the morning of June 25th. So anything, we would check it we open up at 9, so we check the drop box at 9 a.m., give or take, probably like 9:30 on the 25th. We would take everything out of those drop boxes, and that would be considered on time. Anything received after that on the 25th then would be considered late, since they were due on the
just checking.
24th.
I had a couple people ask me a question about it because on their next bill, while there wasn't a late fee, it showed that they had not paid, even though they put it in the drop box on the 24th.
Right,
So when they saw their water bill, it was like $600, and they're like, "Whoa, what just happened here?" But
Right.
realizing that they had obviously paid it on time.
Well, and I would hope people might understand that we're running with 3 people in the office here, and with such a quick turnaround, bills were due on. I had the same thing. My bill showed double because I paid mine on the last day also. So with the quick turnaround, so the bills were due on the 24th. Everything on after that was considered late per se. Then the bills turned around and went out on June 30th. So we had to turn around and print those bills right away so they'd be able to go out on June 30th. Any other time, previous quarters, we have, if they're due August 5th, the next set of bills don't go out till September 30th. So you don't ever have that problem. This quarter was just unique, the timing because of COVID. And anybody that's called in.
No argument. I completely agree with you. I just want to make sure, everybody, we're all on the same page and everybody's aware. You obviously saw that yours was double and you paid it on that day. Mm-hmm. I just don't want other people to be overly, hopefully nobody had a, mild heart attack when they saw their bill and it was double or anything of that nature.
And we just encourage them to call. I know Reese has taken several calls because of that, the same issue with basically a double charge. So
Okay.
Just anybody that has any questions about their bill, please call.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the town manager's report? Anybody else?
I have one.
Okay,
Yes,
Mr.
okay.
Ritz, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Mr.
Commissioner O'Donnell was first. Go ahead.
No, you were first. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay, thank you. So it was brought to my attention earlier, there was an inquiry on the level of the wells. I have a question for Ms. Willis. How often are the well levels measured?
Daily.
Is there a way we could, we have our website and all, for those that are interested, somehow to put that information on our website for those that like to monitor, situation with the wells, especially if things might start dropping due to the drought?
that'd be probably pretty time consuming for our water staff that's already run pretty thin, because everything's handwritten. They do their logs. So it's all in a notebook, and at the end of each month, they send it to me and give me the levels.
How are the wells measured? Is there like a dipstick of some sort, or is it all
I believe
computerized
it's
reading?
something like that. I think they do it. I'm not sure, honestly, to answer you, and I don't want to give you the wrong information. That is something that I can check. But everything that they do is by hand. So their logs are by hand, and then at the end of each month, I'm given a typed up spreadsheet with the well levels. I don't know that they're read every single day, but it's at least every other day. And then they type it up and give it to us. That's probably our best way of doing it.
Okay, well, I guess if you could follow up with me offline after, sometime maybe this week, just confirmation of the frequency, and I understand if everything's handwritten. Obviously,
Right.
that's kind of difficult to type that into
I'm
a
aware.
database on the
Right.
website, but
I'm aware of what you're referring to.
utilizing our website more, maybe, water levels, water quality, everything. We put the alerts out for water quality, and hey guys, we're going to be doing some work on track road, might affect the water, potentially could be brown water. Just tying everything together.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Bless you, Manny.
Question-wise.
Commissioner
Thank you.
O'Donnell? Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Quick question. I'm looking at the quantity of meetings with the county executive. Conference calls. Are these just related to the updates with COVID?
So they were weekly conference calls that the county executive had with all the burgesses and mayors in Frederick County. I sat in and listened on most of them. They ranged anywhere from COVID-19 updates to the CARES Act funding that was passed through from the state to the county, to Governor Hogan's press releases and how the county executive wanted to handle that. It
Great.
gave the
Okay. opportunity
opportunity for the mayors to talk about what each municipality was doing. Mayor Bridge might be able to answer a little bit more than I can.
That's great. Thank you.
Just, if I may.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just that it was kind of rebounding from what the governor, his statements, and finally we just got to the point where we just said, we'll have one. If he has a conference, we'll come back with one to see what we're all going to do and try to. We just wanted to make sure the action of all the municipalities was in line with what the county wanted to do, and that's pretty much it. So we haven't had one in about 3 weeks because the governor really hasn't come out with a press conference with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis, you have anything?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, I do think we need to take a vote, or somebody make a motion on going into phase one of the water conservation volunteer,
I would just do it as a consent since.
or we can do it as consent. Do I have everybody's consent to go on to phase one of the conservation of the water?
For a voluntary
For
curtailment.
volunteer, yes.
Okay.
Voluntary.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have consent from everyone. That I have a yes to.
Okay.
Town planners report, Zach.
Yeah, this is the planner's report for May of 2020. Under commissioner items, prepared the COVID-19 business grant letter application and eligibility checklist. I processed 5 COVID-19 business micro grants that month. Prepared the annexation plan for the wastewater treatment plant parcels, which you'll see in a few months. Under grants, miscellaneous census, community legacy, Chesapeake Bay Trust, Keep Maryland Beautiful, grant management. I processed 1 community legacy grant application, submitted a 1-year time extension for the Trust's Rainbow grant due to the COVID pandemic, Submitted 2 community legacy reimbursement requests under MS4, miscellaneous Silo Hill Basin retrofit project management. We are having a project kickoff meeting next week. Under permits and zoning, we processed 7 zoning permit applications. We responded to incident reports. And we also, something new, we created a code enforcement door hanger and tracking log. This will reduce staff time. It will reduce cost of our mailings, and it'll also make code enforcement a little more personable. Instead of someone receiving a letter in the mail, we're actually going to go up to their doors, and especially after COVID, not now, but after COVID, and talk with them about the violations they have on their property. Under Planning Commission, miscellaneous Rudders, Duncan, and Insurance Brokers of Maryland Project Management. I spoke with Mr. Phelan of the Insurance Brokers, and he's hoping to have it completed in August. He's still going through a couple approvals through the county right now for stormwater management. And as you know, Duncan, they broke ground, and Rudders, they're still chugging along. So attended a virtual PC meeting on the 5th and processed pre-post meeting materials. I re-reviewed the Rudders improvement plan for final approval. I worked with SHA on line. They did a line painting error on the left turn lane into Silo Hill Road. So they stripped up the old paint and they made the turning lane a little bit longer per what was approved in the traffic impact analysis from Duncan. I also answered a bunch of questions from potential developers of Emmett Ridge. There's lots of interest in that property. Under miscellaneous, I obtained quotes for invasive species control on stand 5, and they will be at stand 5 early or later this week or early next week spring. I completed the MDE paperwork for logging stand 5. I prepared stand 6 logging bid documents and mailed RFP to potential loggers. I met with Mike K from DNR, Kathy, and Commissioner O'Donnell on stand 5 on the 19th regarding trail damage to logging. And I just wanted to say a reminder for all those at home to take the 2020 census. They moved the deadline to October 31st. However, you will start receiving people knocking on your door now. Current response rate is 68.4%. However, this does not include St. Joseph's Nursing Home. They will include that number after October 31st. So the 68% isn't a true number. It's probably going to be a lot higher than that. So, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions on the planner's report?
Yeah, I have one. Hey, Zach, the Emmett Ridge development, will that solve our problem with the one way out of Northgate or no?
Absolutely. One stipulation that Kathy and the mayor and I are putting on all developments, and we're making sure all the developers know that's going to be phase 1. So they're going to have to do that right off the bat. Just put that road in.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Zach? Hearing none, we'll move on. Commissioner comments? Commissioner Burns?
Yes, thank you. First, I want to thank the Lions Club and Commissioner Sweeney on the excellent job they did on the Founders Day celebration. It was great to see everyone in the park, very much enjoying the band, their social distancing, and the food trucks. Also want to thank the mayor and town staff for helping with the Dunkin' Donuts. Groundbreaking. It was a great experience to get out there and see so many people excited about the new Dunkin' Donuts that's coming in town. The final thing, and I don't know if this is something we as a commission can help with, or if this is something the mayor might be able to help with. Having worked in education, I know Commissioner O'Donnell works in education. My wife works in education. There's a lot of concern, obviously, with what is going to happen with the schools reopening. There's talk of virtual days, in-person classes, and things of that nature. The thing that I personally am concerned about, and I don't know if this is something that we can reach out to the Board of Education, but a lot of our families here in Emmitsburg have returned to work, and people are returning to work. And if we do see students having to go to a virtual schooling situation, how are our students going to be affected by that with so many parents who have returned to work at this time? I would hate to see our students in any of the schools fall behind or suffer because their parents are going back to work and they don't necessarily have anybody at home, and parents are scrambling for daycare or finding alternatives for what they can do if we are in a situation where there is virtual learning and schools are not opened right away. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The Duncan dedication was a nice thing. The best part about it, I would say, for those who aren't coffee drinkers, that there are 18 jobs coming to town related to that. I think that's a nice step forward. I've had inquiries from folks related to the rudders. Staff provided me a heads up regarding their permit situation, so that was helpful, and staff, thank you on that. I had questions related to the new bridge dedication, the bridge on Main Street on 140. And as a reminder, the dedication is July 25th at 10 a.m. unless that changes. An inquiry regarding the sheriff's procedures, and I made an appointment with the sheriff, with Deputy Whitehouse. Unfortunately, I had to cancel on that, but we're still trying to reschedule that when he comes back from his holiday. I was contacted and have been in contact with the town auditor. They are starting their auditing process early as a result of the need for social distancing. So that is in part underway. I met with the town manager regarding some questions related to trails and some questions related to other items that are not trails, shockingly to her, I think. And some procedural items related to the treasurer, and all the answers were, to my judgment, satisfactory. And thank you to Ms. Willits for her time and for her help. I hope she had a good holiday. The other item is, thank you to Commissioner Burns for attending an impromptu trail day where we were socially distanced. We were able to clear about 200 feet of trail that had been completely torn up by the forestry project. I've talked to a contractor related to repairing what is in need of repair, and at the moment they're booked, but when they are in a position where they can come and look, they are going to submit a proposal to the town office. They've been advised about that. Beyond that, we have an election coming up. I know there are some candidates on the board and in the executive's position. I encourage everyone to be involved and participate in that and participate in the census. And that concludes my update. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, thanks. Again, Commissioner Sweeney and to the Lions Club, you guys did a great job of pulling off the events that happened in town with the fireworks and all, and we've heard nothing but good comments, and it seems like this has encouraged people to start to participate in the concerts in the park. We've had a lot of questions about those, and I spoke briefly with Mr. and Mrs. Joy, and we're going to try to start working on that as soon as the world lets us do that kind of stuff again. But it was a great, great day, and the town really needed that. And that's about all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Ritz?
Yeah, I was unable to attend the Duncan groundbreaking. I apologize. Kind of a last minute teleconference I was pulled into. However, I was at the grand opening of the pool, so that was great to be there, along with the mayor and Commissioner Davis. The following, I had some, not so much complaints, but these are some inquiries that potentially could be future agenda items. It was brought to my attention that up at Rainbow Lake, the riprap by two individuals, they're a bit of a safety issue. They're concerned with the spacing between the rocks. Obviously, we can't fill in the area between rocks with smaller stones that will get washed out into the lake. But is there a way we can potentially fill in some of those holes as, you know, if they're walking near it, that their foot doesn't slip in it and cause injuries to their ankles. It was also brought to my attention that the sidewalk near it's like the ramp when you're coming off of Main Street, approaching Emmett Gardens, very close to the new insurance company. Sidewalk's a bit uneven. It kind of goes uphill then downhill, and the curb appears to be less than state code. And looks like it was pieced together, try to make it fit. So it kind of goes uphill, downhill, and I guess if you're not really watching where you're walking, it could be a potential fall hazard. There are some shrubs along North Seaton Avenue, down from me, but not quite to Commissioner Sweeney's house. It's in back of the Seaton Place housing. I believe Miss Willits is familiar with that area. I believe she lived near there. Maybe she even knows the shrubs I'm talking about. They grow along the bank. There's that shoulder that people park in, but these shrubs grow out very close to getting onto North Seaton. And who is responsible for that, for trimming those?
That would be the homeowner, right, Zach?
Does the homeowner own the bank? Wait, you're muted.
Yeah, that's fine. When I did live there at some point, and I did receive a letter from the town back in the day that bank was my responsibility.
Okay.
But I can confirm with Zach.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
We can reach out to them. I'll speak with Amy tomorrow, and we'll see what we can get done for that.
Okay, and then along the same lines, close by, when you turn on the creek side to go towards right there at the entrance to the apartment complex, there's a street light. There's a tree that grows right there near it. It's inside the fence, so I believe it would be on Mr. Alloy's property there. Who is responsible for trimming that tree that's growing up near that street light?
Okay, we'll have to take a look at that one too. You said, what was the name, Mr. Alloway?
Dave Alloy.
Dave Alloway.
Is the owner of the Creekside Apartments.
Okay, we'll check into it.
He was not the one asking. Other individuals brought it to my attention, and I can confirm it. I could see it myself. I mean, you can see the light, but if that tree grows up, it does sort of dim things at nighttime, especially going around that turn. If you're familiar with the area.
Yep.
Oh, and there's just another question. I didn't notice this myself, but I'm going to ask. There was some concern regarding a white truck parked near the bank at the square. It just kind of sat there for the longest time. Does anybody know anything about that, or was that looked into?
The last that I heard, it had been ticketed a couple times by staff before we ever started getting complaints about it. And then I understand the deputies were trying to do a welfare check on the owner because it had sat there for so long, and then there was chatter going back and forth of who it belonged to, and that was the last I heard. I don't believe it's there anymore, is it?
You know, I didn't notice today, so I think it is gone because
It was moved. I'm sorry to interrupt. It was moved to in front of the bank from the parking space off of Main Street to a parking space parallel to Main Street. So it is still there as of 3 o'clock today.
But it's been moved, so, okay.
Okay, well, that's all I have. So then potentially those first items I talked about, Rainbow Lake riprap and the sidewalk, maybe we can, you know, obviously I'm throwing that here at commissioner comments, but if it's something we need to further discuss, obviously add it as agenda items for the future.
I'll take care of the ramp and the shrubs and the trees. So.
Thank you.
As far as the riprat's concerned, I'll send staff up there, but I don't think that there's anything that we can do. It's built that way purposely. And like you mentioned, if you throw smaller rocks in there, then
Yeah, I mean,
they're going to wash away. And people shouldn't be walking on them anyway, because then that will cause them to loosen up. They will fall into the lake. It kind of defeats the purpose of them being there. But I'll send staff up, take a look at it, and see if maybe we just need to put some signs up that says don't walk on the rocks. And I don't know. I'll have them look at it though.
do we have any signage?
as far as walking on those rocks, not that I know
Yeah.
of.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, let me know. I'm
Yeah.
curious.
I'll have them look into it.
Appreciate it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ritz. I do have a couple. I'd like to thank the town staff and all of the businesses in town on behalf of the Lions Club, the Community Day concert, and fireworks went really, really well, but we couldn't have done it without everyone's help. All the businesses and everything, and everyone who gives to the fireworks every year gave again this year. We took in about the same amount as we usually do through the donations for the past few years. Without everyone's help in town, we wouldn't be able to have the fireworks or the concert we had in the park. But everything went pretty well. It went really well. I stayed the whole time, and the fireworks seemed like they were a little bit longer this time than they usually were. But they were really well attended. The school field was full. The community town center here, our town office field had people in it, and the parking lot. So I think it went really, really well. I appreciate everyone's help. Fire company, without the fire company's help, we couldn't have, and the fire police, we couldn't have had the fireworks take place because they had to be there to watch it and everything, and during when they went off. I'm glad the pool has opened up. It's got about 50 to 60 residents who use it during the daytime that I have been there on the weekends, because we had opened up the concession stand for that also. It's well attended for the residents, more than I thought was going to be coming to it, but it seems to be working out pretty well, and they are maintaining it and doing the sanitizing of everything is really, really good job at doing everything.
Yeah, that's what Amy said. The averages were about 50 to 70. I think on some weekends it's gotten as high as 75 to 80, but you're right on the average.
And everyone that's been at the pool loves the mural.
Good.
They love the inside of the bathrooms and stuff, and they can't believe how much it's
Good.
changed. So hopefully we can open the pool up one of these days, or maybe next year,
Right.
once we get through this crisis that we're having now. I wasn't able to Duncan and the pool opening, but I heard that you had 29 people at the pool opening. That was pretty good. That people were there, said they liked it.
Right.
And the Duncan and I wasn't able to attend that. That was during the daytime too. And is the one for the bridge, is that during the daytime, during the week?
It's going to be on a Saturday at July 25th at 10 a.m. And it'll for
Okay.
Terry Lee Myers.
I'll be able to do that one.
Okay.
I'll be at that one for that.
And the meeting spot for that's the parking lot, where the old food bank was, correct?
That's my understanding.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So July 25th will be the dedication, and that will be for Terry Myers?
Terry Lee Myers.
Yes. On July 25th at 10 a.m. if everybody can make it. That's all I have for now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We had a lot of good meetings in June. I have listed them on page 16 of our agenda tonight. Just some highlights are something that Frank Davis encouraged us to do back in March, that on the COVID updates, we started those, and they've kind of morphed into giving the update, but also presenting people from the community have a say and ask them a few questions and give us some updates. In June, we had Jennifer Clements, the principal at Catoctin High School, and at that time she had no idea what was going to, and that was the first part of June. I don't know where they are now, but everybody's sort of waiting on that. Commissioner Ritz joined 1 week. Jennifer Joy, the chairman of the Community Day Heritage Day, was a guest, and thanked her profusely on us as she is stepping down from that, and Mr. Sweeney's associate, and so we're looking for her to fill that space to come here. But she's done an excellent job, the Joy family. We had Dan Reaver with Emmitsburg Glass. He's the president of Emmitsburg Glass, and the economy is, as far as he is seeing with new construction and the glass facing he's putting on those buildings, it's booming. He's logged out way into the future. After that, we had Sister Martha from the Seton Center. Give her some comments on what's going on. She told us about, we are testing every week. It's every Tuesday at the Seton Center from 12 to, I believe, 2:30. There's COVID-19 testing. It's free, and you don't need an appointment. You may have to wait a little bit as you're in line to get through, but that's the services available here in the town. It's every Tuesday, 12 to 2:30 at the Seton Center on East Lincoln Street. Had Dr. Portier, who was a guest, and she gave us an update last week on COVID and what to do and where we are, and it was very informative. And this week we're going to have George Brenton, who's the director of the Seton Shrine campus over here, and it's good. We're getting everybody involved here, and you get updates on what they do, and it's put on our social media and on 99, and it gives information that may short circuit some questions that everybody has. Some of the things that the university is looking to more to in-town housing. So I had a meeting with Bernard Franklin, the vice president of student life, and also Dr. Levi Esses, the dean of students. I've met with him on that, and we're trying to see how we can balance all this so it's doesn't disrupt the community spirit and the way we're used to living here. The fireworks were incredible. We're the only ones in the county. I think maybe one other town had them, but everybody else canceled, and you could see them for miles and miles around, and it just brought a joy. The crowds here were lower, but that was fine, but you could see it for miles, and Emmitsburg was speaking with that show. We did it. Opening the pool is another thing that everybody was stepping back on, but we opened the pool, and we did it for our youth. And if you're like me and a little older, maybe have some underlying conditions, stay away from the pool. It's for the kids and young families, so they have an activity here. Parks are open, and you can walk, but take a mask and take some sanitizing if you're going to use some of the equipment. Just it's up to us to be safe. And there is a surge in the south of what's going on, and no one seems to know exactly what that is. Why, except maybe it's not social distancing or whatever, or maybe it's a mutation. But I think this has impact on whether people can give us information on whether the schools are going back or not. I talked to the principal of Mother Seton School today, and she's still waiting from the Archbishop. I was going to have her as a guest, and we postponed that till August because she can't give me any information right now. They're waiting for the Archdiocese to let them know about that. I think that's pretty much the highlights of everything. And Duncan opening, and I just want to say they plan to open, and they're hitting right to the chase on this thing. They've started work immediately after the opening, and wonderful family and very community minded, and they plan to be open September 1st, and I think they will do it. And it's kind of with a national brand. It's a destination retail use, and it stands on its own. People go their way to go there, where it's different from convenient oriented retail uses. But this could morph into supporting more uses out that way too. So we'll see. We don't have. I think we heard from the developer of the hotel and his retail. He's sort of stepping back on that for the time being. I think we've heard that he put his property on the market it's on the market right now. I can't speak much to that. Our good planner can do that better in the future. We may need a proclamation for the opening, the dedication on July 25th. Terry Lee Myers Bridge dedication at Flat Run. And if it's all right with the commissioners, if you could trust us that Cliff and I can put together, and the staff can put together a proclamation for that. It's just the way things have worked out here. It is kind of a jumble here at times with people in and out. We're trying to go to distance, and we did get a flare from Middletown. Their office was infected, and they had to close the whole office down. So we're revamping everything. Kathy, our town manager, is right on top of that, and we may go to some more plays here to make sure that we can provide the services to the town, but we cannot have the whole staff close the whole office like it happened in Middletown, so bear with us, everybody, if we're doing that. Bear with us at the pool. If they're asking to wear a mask, you have to wear a mask, and you have to social distance. It's just that time right now, and we can get through this. Emmitsburg top. I think that's it. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we're getting a new principal here in elementary school too, here at our elementary. I talked to the principal that's there now. She's leaving. She's retiring.
Okay.
So we'll be getting a new principal here at the public school.
Well, I could see something happen on my morning walks. I could see that more and more people are starting to go to the school in the morning. So I think they're starting to pull some things together. But that'll be good news. We'll have to get a note off her and thank her for her service as the principal. That's good
Maybe
to know.
we can get a paper made up for her too.
Sure,
a proclamation.
sure.
Because she's been here a couple of years, and she has been letting us use their property for Community Day and stuff.
Absolutely. Good point.
When you visit your call for the Jan, if you do get a call here this month,
Okay.
and maybe another mayor meeting when you guys meet, your conference call with all the mayors.
Right.
If you have one this month, can try to see if you can talk about the schools. Maybe you can find out if all of you ask at the same time. Maybe we'll get some information about the schools.
We do. We just haven't had one in about 3 or 4 weeks. And the main thing is this COVID thing, and we're trying to get money. We're trying to make sure we get our reimbursements. And I think we submitted another month for reimbursements just last week, and I think getting all that all sorted out, and it's an interesting time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions before we move on?
Just one comment for the mayor. I know he mentioned free Frederick County COVID testing. I forgot to mention in my comments that I did take advantage of that on Tuesday. It was a quick, easy process. It took all of 2.5 minutes by the time I walked in and walked out. 10 seconds for the test, and I got my results 4 days later, negative. Wasn't feeling any symptoms, but it was more for peace of mind for myself and my family that, throughout work and stuff like that. But I encourage anybody in town that, wants that peace of mind to stop at the center there and take advantage of that free test on Tuesdays from 12 to 2.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's good feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Public comment? We have no public comment. Moving on to administrative business. Renaming Community Park in honor of Gene Myers. Kathy?
I think that's Commissioner Davis.
Oh, Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, I think we discussed it quite a bit at last month's meeting. If it's okay with everyone, other than I did meet with the family, 2 of the family members at the park. They are very much appreciative of what we're doing, and they were able to find a date that met the family's needs, which I think is most important for them, of September 12th. Um, so with that, if there's no other discussion, I'll proceed with the motion, I guess.
Can we make that date tentative, though, based off of all the COVID that's going on, since everything else has been canceled? I don't know. I don't know how the family would feel about still doing it. You know them better. I guess we could
Yeah,
always cancel it
Yeah, I
as we
don't
got
look for it to
closer.
be I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I don't look for it to be a big crowd. I'm thinking,
Just family.
maybe 30, 40 people, which would stay within the COVID guidelines, I think, right?
Okay.
So I don't look for, 1,000 people. I could be surprised. I'd be great if it was, but I'd be totally surprised.
Okay.
Very good.
But yeah, we can work around that, sure.
Right.
Alrighty, I need a motion to rename Community Park in the honor of Gene Myers.
I make that motion, and the proper name that the family would like to use would be E. Eugene Myers.
I second the motion.
I tried to second. Sorry, I was muted. Go ahead. Commissioner Burns
Motion's been
seconded
made by
that.
Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Burns. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next, the administrative business is update on the speed and noise along East Main Street.
Okay. So I think I worked with Sam DeLawrence at State Highway on this request after our last meeting. I think an email had gone out, and then I think it was discussed at one of our previous meetings regarding the speed and then also the Jake brakes. I think as far as the speed's concerned, if everybody's noticed, there's a speed trailer now on East Main Street. I think it was deployed last week. And in talking with State Highway, they typically put them out for a couple of weeks. And then they see that they start losing their effectiveness. They'll pull them off and then bring them back at a later date. The deputies were notified. Hopefully they're out. Also, it kind of works better if they work hand in hand, speed trailer and deputies at the same time. So that hopefully will take care of some of the speed issues that we're seeing on East Main Street. And then the answer that I got on the Jake brakes from State Highway is state law permits vehicles equipped with an engine brake or similar engine retardant system to operate on Maryland roadways. MDOT State Highway does not prohibit the use of Jake brakes or other engine brakes because of the potential benefits an engine brake can offer in stopping a large truck. Prohibiting this type of equipment could subject the state to tort liability if a crash occurs. Often vehicles which violate the state-established noise limits are improperly maintained, defective, or have modified exhaust systems. Law enforcement agencies can enforce Maryland state laws related to exhaust systems and excessive unusual noise. State law prohibits vehicles from exceeding established sound limits and modifying exhaust systems or any other vehicle noise abatement device. They recommended contacting the Maryland State Police Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Division to see if they wanted to come up here and do any enforcement. I think they've done that in previous years, but haven't been up in a while. Right now, they don't have the staffing to do it with everything else that is going on, but they asked that I call back in the near future. So that's the update on the noise and speed on East Main Street.
Thank you. Update on the traffic light pattern at the square.
Okay. Let me see here. So I actually, in response to Commissioner Ritz's request at the previous meeting, Zach sent an email again to State Highway asking about the traffic light situation. basically what the board had requested and had them take a look at it. I'll read their response. He basically let State Highway know that we were thinking about drafting a letter requesting the traffic light on the square be changed to allow east and west to go at different times, and then expressed our concerns about vehicles passing on the right, safety, etc. So again, this response was from Sam DeLawrence at MDOT. As he mentioned, this is something they've reviewed many times over the years, and unfortunately not something that they can support. Alternating right-of-way at traffic signal is referred to as a split phase. This works okay at North and South Seaton because it's a fairly light traffic volume. Split phasing in general is extremely inefficient, and a four-way split could be painfully sluggish. 3 legs have to wait while one is being serviced, resulting in an extremely long cycle length. The amount of time each leg would have to wait would double, resulting in a queue that would grow exponentially. The result would be queuing and delay, which would far exceed what we have today. Concerns like speeding and cutting through alleys would increase, and every day would be like ski season. A potential solution they have proposed many times over is marking designated left turn lanes on Maryland 140. This can be done possibly with a left turn signal area and would clarify some confusion that occurs with bypassing left turning vehicle. The trade-off obviously is the impact on parking as you push the lanes toward the curb to create left turn pocket. We would lose our parking at the square. Without separate left turn lanes, the current configuration is the best option considering the volume of traffic and conditions in town. So again, State Highway has turned down our request. Zach, the mayor, and I discussed what our options would be, and the only option that we could come up with would be to get an independent traffic study that the town would hire on its own. Obviously, they're not cheap. We reached out to 2 companies and asked them to look at what MDOT's State Highway had their previous operational studies, asked them to conduct a field review and observe operations within the town. Unfortunately, reduction of traffic due to COVID is one of the drawbacks because we do not have the volume that we've had before, and then ask them to prepare a report detailing their findings. There's no guarantee if we do the study and it is in our favor, if you present it to MDOT, they'd even consider the change. But I wanted to give you the options that staff had looked into.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Seems that they just want us to accept no for an answer. It's a shame that they're not really intimately familiar with our town. If they're suggesting a left turn lane, that's asinine. Sorry, I'm just going to use that term. But it's also a shame that the State Highway, when they were up here, when they were going through the whole square process, that's how it was presented to us. That's how the traffic pattern was going to be, and now they state otherwise. So I disagree. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. Not everybody's opinion is correct. I'm not saying that I am, but I still feel that the traffic is jacked up, the current situation, and alternating traffic will enable left-hand turns to proceed at a more safe and quicker, people will be able to turn left and no one else is going to dart around them. But
I think our only...
I'd still like to pursue it. I am personally, I don't know how the rest of the board feels. I personally don't feel that, spending extra money for an independent study is really worth it. I don't like that idea actually, but if everyone else feels otherwise, then let me know. But
I think the outside studies would only be beneficial once things return to normal, because if you do the study now, obviously, I don't think we're going to get favorable results. I've met with Sam on many occasions. I know that he is familiar up here. I do agree with some of his things that he points out. I think it may lead to more people jumping off into the alleys and running the stop signs, because the traffic is going to increase on eastbound and westbound as you're waiting. But I also am tired of the same answer. I've been working on this since I started here in 2013, and it's been the same answer now for 7 years. I don't know when their last traffic study was, but I don't know what else to do. So I would leave it up to the mayor and the board to direct us.
I think one thing we could do, if the deputies reach out to the deputies, you know, the argument that back alleys would be utilized more should they do this. Currently, there are individuals who use the back alleys who illegally cross at Stavros over behind the outhouse. It's supposed to be a right turn only between the hours of 3 and 7. How many times I've witnessed individuals shooting straight across there so they could avoid the light. And so it's happening now. Every day.
The one thing I think they don't understand is the people coming west can set through 2 or 3 lights and no cars ever move. So when he talks about traffic being backed up, that's what's causing the backup. You know, I've set through 2 lights and the cars have never moved coming westbound because of that first car waiting to make that left-hand turn. And there's no more traffic on East Main Street at between 3 and 5 than there is coming in South Seton Avenue. Because between 3 and 5, you're backed up to the post office on South Seton Avenue, and one good light clears that traffic out pretty well. So here again, we got somebody sitting behind a desk 50 miles away that doesn't want to take the time to do the study. So I think that it's time that we either get a hold of our delegates or Senator Huff and tell them we've got an issue that we're not getting a proper response back for. We know our town better than anybody else.
One thing I'll throw in related to this, there's definitely an uptick when there's traffic in the alleys, but what I see some folks doing during rush hour is they will leave Main Street, they'll go up North Seton to Irishtown, and then illegally enter Brookfield Road because it's more convenient for them to press on, if not to just the neighborhoods, but also to areas beyond Brookfield Road off of Tract Road. I don't follow these cars. I've spoken to drivers and they're saying, it's a big backup down there. It's a mess, leave me alone. I try to be very polite. I ask them, please refrain. And it's a question of time and priorities. So it's amazing the trickle down expands beyond just Main Street. I agree with Ms. Willits regarding the timing of the study. Were one to be commissioned, from the funding side, it would be an expensive endeavor, I suspect. And also, I don't think we're going to see the real traffic numbers for a while. So the other side we could do is if we could talk to our deputies and ask them perhaps to give consideration to the enforcement, and maybe that would modify some habits and make things safer in the alley and in the neighborhoods. So, and again, I know they're working, and I don't doubt that, but there are ripple effects that I don't think everybody sees as well. So just sharing some thoughts.
Yeah, and I would just like to thank Zach. Thank you for reaching out, and Kathy, thank you as well. Again, rotten timing, the situation that we're living in right now. But I feel confident it's something we can pursue, hopefully in the future.
Thank you,
I'm not
Mr.
giving
Mayor.
up. I'm not giving up just yet.
Mr. Mayor.
Just really quickly, this has been an issue since the beginning of time. I know we're getting more development up in Pennsylvania, and we've extended our development with Pembroke and Brookfield. But I can remember when I was the president of the EBPA back in the late 90s and early 2000s, going to the town meetings and asking them to please do something about this turn. And it's always been the same thing, but let's keep working on it. And Commissioner O'Donnell has some good reinforces. Town Manager Willits, that the data's not there. We don't have the average daily traffic count, the ATT, on right now, and it'll look. But let's keep pushing on it. Thank you.
Any other questions before we move on? Right now, the alley at Star Rose is packed because the bank is backed up because you can't get into the bank, and they closed the other PNC up Zor, up where Fairfield is. So I've seen the traffic backed up the whole way out to the South Seaton Avenue from the bank. You know, people can't even get in and out. So that's just a problem with the alley.
Yep.
So we'll move on. Treasury report. Commissioner O'Donnell.
My apologies, I'm blabbing and I was muted. Probably better for everybody. Here we are. The current cash balance forward as of June 1st, 2020 was in the sum of $5,001,834. Deposits were in the sum of $352,097. Withdrawals were in the amount of $254,732. The operating balance forward as of this report on June 29th, 2020 is $5,099,199. And the top 10 checks are listed below. And that's the report.
Any questions? Did Zach, for the community legacy grant,
Yes.
they pay the town and then the town writes a check out to reimburse? Is that what it is?
Yeah, we're just a pass through
Oh, okay.
from the state. So.
'Cause I see that we had, because we wrote out the checks for it.
Yep, it doesn't cost the town anything.
Okay. The dam analysis, are we done with that? After it paid? Everything
Yes.
okay with the dam?
Yes. Well,
We have work to do yet on the dam?
well, the report's been submitted to MDE, and they will then review it and let us know if there's any corrective actions that'll be needed. But we haven't heard anything back from them yet.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Planning Commission report, Zach?
Commissioner Ritz.
None for this month.
Or, none for this month, or?
No, I believe our next quarterly meeting is scheduled for October. Is that correct, Zach?
Correct.
Unless something comes up where we might have a meeting prior to.
That's correct. And I think we're going to have a meeting prior.
Okay.
Okay, we're going
Thank
on
you.
to, thank you. We're going on to the regular agenda items. Approval of the FYI 2021 Federal County Sheriff's contract.
Yeah, we haven't received it yet.
Still don't have it.
Oh,
The mayor's
that's
gonna
postponed?
put a phone call in.
so they don't want paid?
I don't know, right?
How we pay them if we don't know what to pay them? Tell them we'll keep the same as next year, they can't raise it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, that's been postponed. Number 2 is canceled. Number 3, approval ordinance 20-03, small cell wireless facility.
Okay. So we, have been no changes to the original ordinance and then the policy that follows since it was presented to the board several months ago. I'll just go over again some of the changes that were made to our current ordinance that we already had. Most of it was just either grammatical changes and capitalizing town instead of lowercase t. Again, this was written by myself and the town attorney. The town attorney did a lot of research in it to make sure that we covered all our bases. So if you hop over to page 27, it talks about definitions. So the definition for telecommunication site was removed, and the definition for small wireless facilities was added, and it basically means a wireless facility that is mounted on a structure 50 feet or less in height or on structures no more than 10% taller than adjacent structures with an antenna no more than 3 cubic feet and total wireless equipment no more than 28 cubic feet. I should add, we've taken, most of this was taken from several municipalities that have had really good success with their small wireless facilities or ordinances. Page 28, we added to the definition of wireless telecommunication facilities, which means a structure, facility, or location designed or intended to be used as or used to support antennas or other transmitting or receiving devices. And then we added, this includes, without limit, small wireless facilities, personal wireless facility, and telecommunication towers. If you go over to page 30, where we're talking about the special use permit application and other requirements, we say all applications for the construction or installation of new wireless telecommunication facilities shall contain the information hereinafter set forth. And with the application shall include the following information. So to number 11, we added and small wireless facilities. So the number, type, and design of the tower, antennas, and small wireless facilities. Number 13, we added or small wireless facilities on number 13. Then, again, under the special use permit application, other requirements, letter K was added. In the case of a new tower, the applicant shall furnish a visual impact assessment, which shall include, and those requirements were kept the same. Over to page 35, under the height of telecommunication towers, we added small wireless facility to the applicant shall submit documentation justifying the total height of any tower and small wireless facility and or antenna. Letter D is new. Its small wireless facilities must be located at a minimum height of 15 feet above grade. E, all small wireless facilities must adhere to the standards set forth in policy 2020-02, small wireless facility standards. Section 1532-100, appearance and visibility of wireless telecommunication facilities. We added letters D through I. Again, these were not changed. It basically sets forth basically the appearance and visibility. This is going to also be addressed in that policy. If there's any questions D through I, I'll skip over that. Nothing's changed, like I mentioned. On page 38, action on an application for special use permit for wireless telecommunication facilities. In the case of an application for small wireless facilities, the town shall review an application for co-location of a small wireless facility on an existing structure within 60 days and review an application for placement of a small wireless facility on a new structure within 90 days. Page 39 is just some grammatical changes. Page 40, when we talk about recertification of a special use permit, we added letter 8. If the wireless telecommunications facility is located on private property, a copy of the lease or the lease or the consent of the property owner must be provided. Page 41. Letter 1532-200 talks about an application fee. Letter A was changed to permit fees are to be established from time to time by policy, resolution, or ordinance by the town and shall be paid at the time of the application. This allows the board to review and change your permit fees without having to go in and change an ordinance. think that was it for changes. So that is all for the changes on the ordinance, to ordinance number 20-03, or 20-3. I will let you know that I did, Comcast reached out to myself and the town attorney asking for an exception. The town attorney did a thorough investigation, thorough review of the franchise agreement and the proposed amendment, and she did not find any reason to amend the ordinance in favor of Comcast. She just wanted to note that the legislation would not operate retroactively, so that anything that was already placed by Comcast, they wouldn't have to come back and make any changes. It doesn't create an additional new layer of regulation. They were already required through their franchise agreement to obtain a special use permit. And the new regulations are very limited, and a limited amendment to what was already in place. And the exceptions they were looking for may have given Comcast some favoritism, and we didn't want to do that. Comcast was notified that they were not, we were not going to make their changes. They were offered to come to or speak at the meeting, and they declined. And that's everything for the ordinance.
Any questions on the ordinance as presented?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Okay. A variety of things. I'll sort of go through the grocery list, if that's okay, and I'll ask staff if they would give consideration to answering them if they're able. You had mentioned, well, first of all, is there protection for Main Street in zoning, so we're not seeing these towers as a standalone item on Main Street, where great lengths were made by our predecessors as commissioners to push back or underground utilities, so Main Street's unfettered by them other than our street lights. I would hope we could maintain that, where these would be off of Main Street and in the alleys. So I would hope we would have protection there. The next item, there's mention of town approval, and I'm wondering what the process would be. Who would provide these approvals? Would it be a committee, like the planning committee, or would it be the commissioners, or would it be the executive and the commissioners? I'm curious about that, and if a committee is involved regarding providing permits, and again, that placement issue. The fees, are they recurring fees for these permits? Is it something that we would require the vendor to renew each year? So if, for example, they choose to not have it, it gets removed as opposed to being abandoned. And the last item is, I'm sorry, I got my little list here. Ms. Willetts, you mentioned that other towns and municipalities had success. If you could expand on where they had success with the language, that would be great. It would, for me, give me more confidence, not in you, but in, you know, how airtight and how protected we are from where the towers are placed.
So we might be better suited to move on to the policy, because the policy would address a lot of your questions.
Great.
And this ordinance came from Ocean City. Some came from Gaithersburg and Rockville. And I had spoken to them at the last summer conference, both their representatives. And they feel they didn't really elaborate on their success. So to sit there and say which areas in particular, at least in the ordinance, I don't think I can answer that. The small wireless facility standards, that's where they're seeing their success with the aesthetics of it. That's more of what municipalities are concerned about, is the aesthetics and where they are, like you mentioned, where they are able to put their devices. And in speaking with Rockville, this policy here is where they think they got the most bang for their buck with, you know. But let's move on to the policy, and maybe that'll answer some of your questions.
Thank you.
So policy P2002 goes hand in hand with the ordinance. Again, nothing's changed since the last presentation, but we'll go through it. The height standards, they cannot be mounted on structures greater than 50 feet in height, which includes the antenna. They may not be mounted on structures more than 10% taller than other adjacent structures. Small wireless facilities may not be mounted on existing structures which cause the structure to extend to a height of more than 50 feet or more than 10% above its pre-existing height. The antenna and other, each antenna associated with a small wireless facility can be no greater than 3 cubic feet in volume. All other wireless equipment associated with the structure, including the wireless equipment associated with the antenna and any pre-existing associated equipment, can be no more than 28 cubic feet in volume. Installation, placement, and design standards. Small wireless facilities must not project over the roadway, pedestrian path, or sidewalk unless otherwise approved by the Director of Public Works. New poles or other structures that support small wireless facilities must maintain a minimum 3-foot horizontal clearance from existing sidewalks and roadways and a minimum 5-foot horizontal clearance from the outside edge of driveway aprons, handicap ramps, unless a lesser clearance is approved by the Director of Public Works. Small wireless facility antenna must be located a minimum of 15 feet above grade unless otherwise approved. Any exterior attachments to the structure must be a minimum of 8 feet above grade unless otherwise approved. Ooh, I'm not gonna read every one of these. You don't want me to read every single one of these, do you?
Oh,
Yeah, but as you go through, must be the same height. Replacement poles and fixtures must be the same height as the pole and fixtures being replaced. All wireless equipment installed underground must be placed in an enclosure, must be consistent with industry standards. Antennas must include shielding. All wires, cables must be located inside the structure. All visible small wireless equipment placed on a structure must be painted with non-reflective paint of the same color as the structure. No writing, symbol, logo, or other graphic representation is allowed to appear on any exterior surface. No visible lighting is allowed on any small wireless facility as except required by law or the town. Any new pole must be consistent and compatible with surrounding poles and structures. Must not impact existing town street trees. Must not impact the line of sight of vehicle or pedestrian movements. Must not create any American with Disability Act in violations. Must not interfere with, and you can read those, A through J. All wireless facilities equipment must be placed in an underground vault in the area where town utilities are underground. They must be placed in line with other utility features. Must incorporate ambient noise suppression measures. Strongly encourage the co-location of small wireless facilities on existing structures to minimize visual clutter, distractions of vehicles. Freestanding poles for small cell facilities must be spaced a minimum of 250 feet. Small wireless equipment installed at ground level must incorporate concealment elements. Must be painted to have at least visual impact the least visual impact colors. Color must be approved by the town as part of the permit. Paints must be lead and chromate free. Conditions, missed utility. If they're located in the public right-of-way, must not cause a safety hazard. Must be removed from the public right-of-way within 90 days of the final right-of-way access attachment payment to the town for small wireless. If we require it to be removed, it must be removed within 30 days. They must obtain a permit from the town for any maintenance. May request a right-of-way agreement for multiple installations. And then it goes through their submittal requirements. Documentation certified by a professional engineer. Applicant must provide certified analysis showing that the proposed facility satisfies the FCC. Complete a utility permit application checklist, written authorization from the structure owner. Permit fees are to be established. That's pretty much your aesthetics for the small wireless facilities. And then the fees are included in the next policy, which Zach is going to go over. And there is, just real quick, there is a recertify the special use permit without a modification. There is no fee for that, but there's some other fees associated, but I'll let Zach go over that one. So basically, Zach and myself would be responsible for reviewing the special use permit. And then your director of public works would have to review the actual site to make sure that it conforms with all the other standards.
Yes, once we receive the application, I would kind of do what I do for when plans come in. I would create a staff memo, and then it would go out to Kathy, the mayor, also our town engineer. They're going to be our main reviewer, and also Jimmy Click, who's our road superintendent. So our engineer will review it, and the fee is high enough that the applicant will pay for the reviews. If that answers your review question.
It does and it doesn't, in that I'm still looking for specific protections related to Main Street's aesthetic. I've seen where modifications have been made to existing street poles, or street poles have been added. The other part is the permitting, sort of the carrot and stick piece. Penalties related to removal when we have a utility issue that needs to be addressed. I see that they are required to remove it within 30 days, but I would suggest it would be advisable to have a fee, or rather a penalty fee, if that did not occur, because there are times when you have sort of that cascading set of events where you have to take care of a sewer, or you have to take care of some infrastructure, but it can't happen until another item has been addressed, another utility has been addressed. So typically in our town, we're fortunate we control our own water and sewer. So we can manage those things, and traffic. And if we have an issue with electrical or telephone items or wireless, I would like us to be able to force that a little bit if there's a need, if we find that a company's dragging its feet.
I can answer that, Kathy, if you want me to, and Tim.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the ordinance under 1532-280, it says
Okay, what page are you there, if you could help?
45.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. I just saw it.
Yeah.
So basically, if they don't respond within the time frame that we have in the ordinance to remove,
Right.
we have the ability to remove it at the sole cost of the applicant.
Yeah, and that's always been in there. That was not anything that's changed.
Okay. All right. Well, do you feel that's sufficient motivation for somebody to comply?
Well, the town attorney felt very confident that that was enough legal language to force compliance.
Okay.
So,
And backing up again to protecting Main Street, is there anything ordinance or policy-wise that will prevent one of these from being slammed somewhere on Main Street as opposed to the alleys?
well, if you look through, I think the standards, I think there are provisions in there that I think, from what I understand, I have to find it again. You can't put a new pole up within 250 feet from another freestanding pole, which I'd have to check with Jimmy to see how far spread out our streetlight poles are, but don't think they're more than 250 feet apart.
That's almost a football field.
Right. So the way that I think that I read that, and the only way that maybe we strike out, I'm looking at page 51, number 26. So it says to minimize visual clutter, distractions, and the hazard, freestanding poles for small cell facilities must be spaced a minimum of 250 feet from other freestanding small cell facility poles on each side of the street. One thing we could do is strike, if you strike 250 feet or keep 250 feet from other freestanding facility or utility poles, that would then capture our streetlight poles. So no, they could not stick one in between any of those streetlights, and that would protect north, south, east, and west Main Street from any sort of pole going up.
I think that would be terrific if we can make that modification, but I also don't want to tie their hands where they're not able to use an alley. Do you follow what I mean? Does that,
I do, but I don't know how else to fix your concern, because
could we say Main Street and Lincoln Avenue and North Avenue, for example?
I would check with Leslie first.
yeah, I got to. That I can't answer. I think that
What, Seton?
right. I mean, north and south Seton, east and west Main Street is going to be protected because the lights are that far spread apart.
Right.
But in the same token, I don't think you really want a pole going up in between your streetlights down along Lincoln Avenue either, or North Avenue either, because the whole idea is for the safety of it and not to distract drivers. And if you have poles after poles after poles, you know, they could always petition or apply to the town and ask for consideration to put one of those on our pole. I would not approve it, and I'm sure Zach and the mayor and nobody would approve it on east, west, north, south Seton Avenue, but there might be considerations on, or we could even add the exception unless otherwise approved by town manager or director of public works. And then that would give you the option to look at north, you know, those other alleys.
So I guess where my thought is, and where I'm going on this is, if they were to provide the pole, that would also serve as the utility pole and the street light pole. Again, sort of that, I believe the term you said was co-hosting. They say, hey, here's what we're going to do. That street light over there, we're going to upgrade it to LED. And on top of it, above where the light sits, we're going to have our infrastructure. And that way, maybe they could come in and assist the town and have the opportunity to use it. Because I'm worried that if we say the 250 feet piece, then that eliminates the alley also. And that would foist it on, you know, private property owners or some of our institutions.
The 250, God.
Go ahead, sorry. The other part would be trying not to, there is a need for these, but I think if we can balance our needs as well, there's merit that we both get the benefit of this technology while preserving the quality of our environment, our community, rather.
I think the best option is, you know, the 250 feet seems to be universal with the other municipalities. But if we take out small cell and add utility and facility poles, and then we could add, as we have before, you know, to take care of some of the other alleys, unless otherwise granted an exception, I think that would help give us some control over those alleyways then. And it may be in an area that it is just definitely a safety hazard and we don't want it in between those poles.
No, you guys, your answers have been excellent, and your thoughts, your responses are very good, and I support what you're proposing. Last item is regarding the permit. How often do we ask them to re-up their permit? I see we have the capacity to move if there's a utility need, like for utility work, and they're compelled to remove it if it's done. But as a fee thing, I mean, are we looking at this as a one-time permit, or is this a permit that needs to be updated? It just strikes me that there might be a need to update it as the technology, I suspect, will be refreshed and it will evolve.
Well, I think that's in here. I just have to find it.
Okay.
So recertification of a special use permit between 12 months and 6 months prior to the 5-year anniversary after
what page are you on? I'm sorry.
sorry, page 39, letter A. Between 12 months and 6 months prior to the 5-year anniversary after the effective date of the special use permit and all subsequent 5-year anniversaries of the effective date of the original special use permit for wireless telecommunications, the holder shall submit a signed written request to the town, I got an extra town in there, for recertification. And then it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on what their recertification, or through 8, of what their recertification requests would be. So that, yeah, so it's not it's not a blanket permit. They would have to, reapply.
That's great. Is there a fee related to that reapplication? I'm not seeing it, but, and I'll share this.
That's in that policy. New tire sport co-located.
I did look at it, but the quantity of it is, this is a rather heady set of items we're looking at.
So without moving on to, like I said, I'm gonna have Zach go, but page 55, the infrastructure permit.
Okay.
Letter B is your wireless telecommunications facility. It goes over the fees, but letter C, recertify the special use permit without modification is $0. However, if you look at A, if there's a substantial modification, then there is a fee of new towers, $8,500. So if they're not changing anything and they're just up saying, hey, we're still here, we're going to update your information, there's no charge. But if there's a substantial modification due to new technology, then there'd be a new fee.
Is there a way we define substantial? I know I'm getting picayune, but I just want to make sure that, you know, there's value added to our, to these enhancements, value added to us.
I think, Tim, the policy they can change, we could change at any time. We can upgrade it to meet the cost.
Yeah, I don't think we could, you know, with the new technology, I wouldn't want to speculate and limit us on whatever may or may not happen in the future. And I don't want to limit and then, you know, they skate by and don't have to pay anything. I would just be more comfortable if just,
Let's have some flexibility.
yeah, I think substantial modification, I don't know how to define that with not, you know, I'm not in the wireless technology field to know what the technology might be in 5 or 6 years. I don't want to tie our hands. Me personally, I prefer to keep it the way it is, but I'm open to suggestions.
Well, I think with the policy, we can address at any time. That can be changed at any time. The ordinance is what we have to go, if we want to change the ordinance, we have to go through a process. But the reason why we made the policies is so we can change them when we need to.
Right.